I'm Paige Ann Olson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to show you how I make a market bag. This is a fairly large one, and I have a smaller one here for like a gallon of milk. But the pattern I'm going to show you is going to be adaptable to whatever size you would like. So let's get started. Well, I showed you one of the market bags that I made, and I probably made this about 6 years ago. And I'm going to show you how to make this size, but instead of doing French seams, which is what I have used on this bag, and French seams just cover up at the raw edges. I will show you how to do a French seam though, but I'm not going to use it today in my market bag. I'm going to go ahead and use my serger. I don't know if you've ever seen me use my serger, but I'm going to serge the edges instead. And then if you notice this kind of top lining right here, I'm going to put in a top lining, and I like my straps to be pretty nice and wide because it really helps to distribute the groceries when you put them in the bag if you have good size handles. But for this particular size, and again, you can make this any size you want. For this particular size, I cut out 2 pieces of like duck canvas or canvas that you buy. You could use outdoor stuff if you want to. You probably don't really need to, but sometimes their stuff's kind of cute and you could find something you really like, and like you could use either one. Duck or the outdoor canvas is going to be a little bit harder to work with when you do seams and corners and stuff like that. But the piece of fabric that I cut out is a 19.5 inch wide by 17.5 inches tall, and I cut out 2 of them, one for the back and one for the front. And then for the handles, I cut out 2 strips of 6 inches tall by 26 inches long. And then here is my upper lining that's going to go inside the top, which I think helps stabilize it. And this is 5 inches by the width of the top of your main panel. So in my case, it's 19.5 inches, and it's going to be 5 inches, a little bit less than that with the seam allowance. We'll have a little bit less. So if you wanted to make your inside lining longer, you obviously are going to make it more than 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to serge on 3 sides, not the top, but I'm going to serge this side, the bottom, and the side on both of these pieces, and that will seal in the edge of the outside of the market bag. One of the things about this duck fabric or this canvas fabric is it's a wider weave, and so if you don't cover the seams or you don't serge them or French seam them, they will fall apart and shred when you use the bag, and you don't want that for a market bag, at least not when you want to keep for a long time. Like I said, I've had these for probably, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years, and I use them a lot, and I throw them in the trunk of my car. They really get pretty abused, and you can throw them in the washer and dryer. I just throw them in the washing machine and wash them on warm, regular cycle, and I dry them, so they're real easy to take care of as well. So let's go ahead and put the polka dot fabric, my main fabric, on the serger, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. I have my serger set up with white thread. You'll be able to see it that way. And I believe I'm doing a wide stitch. It's a little bit loud, so I probably won't talk much because I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. But I'm going to go ahead and seam the first side of my main panel. One thing you want to do is you want to have a long tail. And what I'm going to do with that tail for the next, and this is what the seam looks like right there. What I'm going to do with this long tail right here is I'm going to fold it over kind of like that. And when I seam this edge, I'm going to catch that tail inside of the seam so I don't have to do a knot. The serger doesn't have a locking stitch, at least mine doesn't. They may have newer ones that have that, but mine does not. So you have to figure out how to lock the stitch. And when you're on the end, like right up here where I began, I'm going to have to do a little bit of a, I'll show you what I do. Kind of hard to explain. And now it's hard to see, my hands in the way. You can, I don't know if you noticed, but when I was showing you the earlier seam, you can kind of tell, if you're not careful, how easily this frays. It's already kind of fraying there. But when I incorporated that tail, it's right there. You can kind of see it inside there, but I have this tail I'm going to have to deal with, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to go ahead and seam the rest of these. For my other panel and this other side, I'll show you how to do the knot, and I'll be right back. So here's my tail, and I'm going to take my wide-eyed needle, and oops, it's a little bit tricky because the fabric's a little bit stiff, and I'm just gonna, just like that. And what you want to do is you want to hold the eye of your needle taut so you can actually thread it through the hole, or at least some of it through the hole, because if you get a little bit, you'll be able to pull it up. It's a bit of a challenge, I will say. And let me see if I can get it a little bit closer, and kind of just like that. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm gonna pull it through just like that. You may have to do this a couple of times. It's a little bit tricky to get used to it, but okay, so here we are. And here's my, and I just take, you've got a lot of thread here to work with. And I just kind of take my needle and thread, just like you would any kind of finishing knot like that, and pull it through once or twice in the same place to just give yourself a little bit of a knot so the thread stays secure. And then that's how you finish off the end of a serge. You can also, another thing you could do if you didn't want to do a knot is I've seen people actually thread through with their needle and thread it through, and that would work as well. But that's how that I usually do a knot, just because I think it's a little bit more secure. I will finish this, and then I'll be back for the next step. So the next thing we want to do is prepare both of the straps, and the best way to do that is go ahead and take the strap and press it in half lengthwise. See if I can, it's kind of hard. I starched this before I showed it to you, and the starch has really made it kind of hard to press in half. We're going to get that center line, and that's going to be how we're going to determine the width of our strap. So just going to kind of try to get that center line right there. Hopefully you can see this okay. I'd like to have my iron really nice and hot to do this. That way I get a really nice crease. And then you're gonna, once you have done that, you're gonna open it up like this and then fold it in on each side to the crease line. And then press that toward the center. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I don't want my hand to get in the way. It's kind of hard not to have it get in the way. Maybe if I do it this direction, that would be easier. And we'll do that on both sides. Oops. So go ahead and do this on this side like that. Just kind of do it to the center for both sides. You can tell how nice and stiff this fabric is, and that is what you want for your market bag. You want it to be nice and stiff. Okay, so this is what it should look like. And then we're going to fold it over like that. I'm going to press it in on itself like that. Just like that. And here is going to be strap number 1. So here's strap number 1, just like that. And I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm gonna go in about 1/8 of an inch and do a top stitch on this side and on this side. I'll go ahead and get the other strap ready and then show you what that looks like when I'm done with the top stitching. So some of you have requested that when I'm sewing, that I show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and start stitching. Well, actually, you know, I told you about 1/8 of an inch, but it's really more going to be like 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to set my length to 2.5. You don't have to back stitch here because we're going to sew the end of this into the top part of our bag. And I'm using a guide on my foot and on the bed of my machine to determine that 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to do that actually on both sides. I picked, the thread color I picked was strawberry blonde. It's a glide thread. It's not a perfect match, but you know, it blends well. And the thread that I use for the straps is going to be the thread that I use for the top stitching on the bag as well. So I think it'll end up looking nice when I get ready to do that top stitching as well. I kind of like to have a contrast thread to the bag. It kind of shows up and is just kind of, I don't know, it looks more finished or more professional. I don't know, I like it. You obviously don't have to do that. You could use, you know, thread that matches your main fabric. That's the great thing about sewing. You can there are no rules. I mean, well, there are rules, but there's so many things you can do that make it, you know, personalize it for your taste. So this is the 1/4 of an inch top stitch, and I'm going to do it on the other side over here, and then I'm also going to do it on the other strap. You could do, you know, more than 2 lines of top stitching if you want to, whatever you want to do. When I'm done with this, I'll show you what it looks like, and we'll go on to our next step. So the next step is, once we have our straps done, and just so you know, I went ahead and did a zigzag across the edge of the handles the fabric is really fraying, and I want to really just secure that. So what we're going to do to place the straps on is we're going to measure in 5 inches on both sides of the main fabric using your heat soluble, whether it's by water or heat. I like the heat because I like to iron it off. And I'm just going to mark 5 inches here, do that on this side, and mark another 5 inches here. I'm going to place my straps, and you want to orient them correctly. I'm going to place my strap inside each of the lines that I drew. And what's important is to correctly place your strap onto the fabric. You don't want to do it backwards. So if the fold is on the inside of the one strap side, you want it to be on the inside of the other one as well. That way your bag won't be crooked when you're finished. So I have my inside on both straps, or the fold, I guess, on the inside of both straps. And so it should lay perfectly. When we're done with that, I'm going to take our lining, our top lining, and it should fit right on top, just like that. And then I'm going to clip it all the way across the top, being careful to go ahead and catch the straps. And we're going to do a 1/4 of an inch seam across the top, just like that. And I'm going to lower my stitch length to about a 1.8 to make it nice and tight. We're going to put that together, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So if you can see, I went ahead and stitched it all the way across the top. I don't know if you can tell, but I reinforced the straps. I went over them a couple of times on both sides, just for additional security. And when you flip it over like this, I'm going to press it. And once I press it, I'll do a top stitch all across the top of this. Oops, if I can get my strap out of here, I'll do a top stitch right across there and capture the inside part of that seam right here. And plus it finishes it, it makes it look really nice. And when I'm done with that, I'll show you what it looks like and finish the other side. So this is what it's going to look like, and I'm going to go ahead and do the top stitching, and I'll probably do that at about 2.5 stitch length, and I'll do that to the other side, and then I'll show you what that's going to look like. So this is what the bag should look like now. I've top stitched the lining to the front panel. This is what the back looks like. And what I have done is I have pressed about 1/4 of an inch under the lining, and I'm now going to top stitch the base of the lining to the front. So we're going to have another line, oops, that's going to come right here, and I'm going to do that for both the front and the back main fabric for the bag. And then we'll see what that looks like, and then we'll be ready to start putting it together. So this is what the bag looks like, and I have stitched the lining on both sides, on the top and the bottom. I also went ahead and did a zigzag down the lining. It was gonna fray. You know, going forward, probably what I would do instead of that is I'd go ahead and on my serger, before I did the top stitching, I'd go ahead and serge the lining as well. But I forgot to do that. So I went ahead and improvised and did the zigzag on all 4 sides of the lining. So this is what it should look like. And we're going to end up putting right sides together. Oops. and sewing all 3 sides, this side, and the bottom, leaving the top open. But I promised you that I would show you how to do a French seam. In case you want to do a French seam instead of the way I'm going to show you today, I'll show you how to do that. So normally when you are doing a seam, you will put right sides together, sew your seam, and then your seam is enclosed. In a French seam, we're going to do exactly the opposite. We're going to put wrong sides together, and I'm going to stitch a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance right along the edge, and I'll be back and show you how to finish that up. So I know it's a little counterintuitive to sew a seam wrong sides together, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut 1/4 of this off, which basically you're going to end up with 1/4 of an inch seam. And so now you have something that's going to look like this. And this is the magic. So now you're going to turn it over. Or if you were, if this was a regular seam, I'm going to press this because we want to get a nice press on this. I'll finger press it to show you. And then I'm going to take a 1/4 inch seam right along the top, right up there. Also with my stitch length at 1.8. And I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. So when we take that 1/4 inch seam, I'm going to open this up for you. Here's our seam on the outside, and then look how it's enclosed on the inside. And what's great about this is for a bag or for fabric that's frays easily, or a wide weave like this, enclosing that seam really helps to secure it. Like I said, I'm not going to do that today on this bag because I went ahead and serged the edges, but that's just another way if you don't have a serger, or you don't want to use, if you like these seams, which I did. I did a bunch of bags with the French seam. I thought it looked really cute. So let's go ahead and finish the rest of our bag, and we're just about done. But now you know how to do a French seam. I think I mentioned before that we are going to put right sides together and go ahead and sew. I'm going to go ahead and clip this, and I'm going to sew the edges together on the 2 sides, matching the straps at the top, the 2 sides and the bottom, and I'm going to clip that right now and get that ready to go. You don't have to put a lot of clips, just a few. And actually, you probably don't even have to put any clips. If you're, if you've done some sewing for a while, you probably don't need to. And there's kind of a fun little technique I'm going to show you on kind of finishing this and having it look really nice. And again, you don't have to do it. It's just, it kind of finishes it, makes it look nice. I have gotten many compliments on these market bags. Okay, so this is right sides together, and we're going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch seam all the way down using a tight, a short length of 1.8. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get back. So here is our almost finished bag. I have seamed the 3 sides, pressed it, turned it right side out, press it again, and really, if you wanted to, you could absolutely just use this as your market bag. But I'm going to show you how to box the corners so that you can have a flatter bottom and you'll get more in it. So to do that, we're going to turn our bag inside out again, just like this. And I'm not gonna cut, if you're familiar with doing boxed corners, normally you kind of just cut them when you're done, but I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna use that as a little bit of a stabilizer for the bottom. So to make your box corners, you're going to take your fabric and open it up like this. Now, because the seams are kind of locked in place, if you will. I'm not sure how to say that. Because I use the serger, you can't split the seam. So I'm going to take, I think I'm gonna do a 2-inch bottom. And to do that, I'm gonna take my ruler, my small ruler, and I'm going to give myself, I guess it would help if I put it on the right side so I know what 2 inches are. And you want to make sure that you do the same thing on both sides so they'll be even. And I'm just going to take a mark on both sides, oops, right at that 2-inch place, that 2-inch spot. None of my pins seem to be working today. And then I'm going to seam that, take a seam right there, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other corner, and then I'll be right back and show you what that looks like. So I have sewn the corners, let me bring this close so you can kind of see, and they are a 2-inch corner, hopefully. You can see that, kind of right there's the seam. And normally you would go ahead and measure this, you know, and cut this off. But we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna just kind of leave that inside. I'm gonna turn my bag right side out again. And this is the kind of arty step you don't have to do if you don't want to. I mean, you do want to turn your bag right side out, but to use it. But there is a kind of a little bit, one more little thing. So notice how you have now this square bottom. So you can see where that actually allows you to get a little bit more in. But to define this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the seam here at the bottom that we just created, the box seam, and then I'm going to also press the sides. See if I can put that together like that. And I'm going to press the sides together like this too. And then I'm actually going to do like a stitch all the way around the sides and the bottom part, like a top stitch around the bottom and around the side. And that will help define kind of that box bag. That will also help keep the shape a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. So here is our finished bag. Oh my gosh, I think the fabric is so cute on this, and so much of the projects that you make, I mean, they're cute because the fabric is so cute, and fabric is just like, that really sets it off. But anyway, I went ahead and boxed out all of the sides and the corners, and I don't know if you can see, but here's the top stitching I did around the edges and on the bottom, and I did that obviously on both sides, so it's made it kind of a nice little box bag, and it will hold its shape for because you sewed the sides. It really does do a good job of holding its shape. Lots of times if I forget my market bag, then if I go on a normal grocery shopping, I use about 20 of those plastic bags, and I can get those very same 20 plastic bags in probably 6 of these market bags, unless you have a large object like a big bag of dog food or kitty litter, or obviously you wouldn't put that in these things. If you don't want to do the straps, you think they're too fussy or whatever, you can always get some backpack strapping, and it kind of This is what it looks like, a little bit close up. The problem is you're kind of limited in color at the big box stores, but you could probably order this online and get any color you ever wanted. And this is, I think, 1.5 inches wide. And I used it for something else, but I thought, you know, that would also work beautifully with these market bags. So I'm happy with it. I think it turned out really cute, and I hope you'll try making a market bag for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. As you can see, I have a lot of market bags, and I've given away a bunch of market bags, and I have them in different sizes. So you certainly can make them in however many sizes you want. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've learned something, and I hope you'll make some market bags for yourself. I don't know if it's true, but I hear that the plastic bags is going to be something in the future they're going to start charging us for. So we don't want to have anything to do with that. We want to make our own market bags. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, a like, and give me comments. I would love to hear from you. What's under your needle?